Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua, and I'll be doing the devotional for us tonight to start us off the right way. So we're part of Mars Hill Speech and Debate. Most of you probably already know that, and our club is part of a national league known as STOA. Now, STOA's motto is "Speaking boldly, changing the world for Christ." And one of its primary goals is to, as its mission statement says, promote the development of a biblical worldview. But I think people oftentimes have trouble reconciling those goals and the desire for a Christian world with the competition that speech and debate brings. We look to the early church and we see a lack of competition. Think of how the church in Acts shared everything that they had with one another. They didn't compete with one another to see who had the biggest house or the best toga or anything like that. They shared everything. And there was only one overall church in the world until they split in 1054 AD. But nowadays we have multiple denominations that compete with one another for different members, and there's an ever-increasing array of books, classes, curriculums, and versions of the Bible that all vie for our attention and our money. That doesn't seem biblical. Competition doesn't seem biblical. How can speech and debate foster a Christian spirit if it has competition? Well, when I first joined speech and debate, I didn't do well at all. In my first year, I didn't succeed in any of the events that I competed. There was this one guy that I debated 4 or 5 different times, and I lost every single time I debated him. And I began to feel a bit of resentment against him and against all the other people in our club who were doing much better than me. Some of them were around the same age, but they were doing much, much better. But after thinking it over and praying about it, I realized something. Everything that I was going through was my fault. I was deciding to have anger against them, and it was my choice to resent their success. The lesson is competition is rough. People will get hurt, but it's their choice. It results from our fallen nature and our choice to compare ourselves with others instead of rejoicing with them. So the consequences or downsides that many people think of competition and speech and debate aren't an innate part of Stoa and of speech and debate. Instead, they're the reactions of fallen, sinful human beings to the work that God is doing through that. Speech and debate is a tool that can be used for good or evil. God specifically commands us in Matthew 28 to go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all that I have commanded you. There are several things to note about this. First, it requires boldness. We have to go to all nations. Speech and debate can help us fulfill this goal by reducing the fear that many of us have about public speaking. It's made it possible for an introverted, book-reading person like me to give hundreds of speeches over the last 3 years that I've competed. And how are we supposed to go to all nations if we know nothing about them or their religions or their worldviews? And we learn about all of these things in the events that Stoa offers us. Jesus also tells us to teach them all that I've commanded you. Again, how are we supposed to do this if we don't know what he commanded us? Stoa has an entire event called Apologetics, where competitors must give speeches defending the Christian faith in all areas. Just a few of the topics it mentions are the Trinity, whether the Bible is reliable, quotes from notable atheists like Richard Dawkins, and comparing Christianity to other religions like Islam, Mormonism, and Hinduism. In short, speech and debate gives us tools that to effectively evangelize to everybody while also building our own faith and general knowledge. Competition is the most effective way to develop these skills and encourage us to grow in our knowledge of the world and of the Bible. So we've seen that the downsides of speech and debate aren't downsides because they're our own choice, and how speech and debate actually gives us a lot of skills that we can help to fulfill the Great Commission. So what can you do with this? Well, there's a couple of things. First of all, if you're already competing in speech and debate, you need to grow your skills and your knowledge as much as you can, because the more you do that, the more effectively you're going to be able to communicate the gospel to the world. Second, if you're not in speech and debate already, or if you're unsure about whether you want to do it next year, please consider and talk with your family and pray about doing it. Seriously consider competing in Mars Hill and in STOA next year, because there is no other way that I know of that in such a short amount of time in high school that can give people and children and teenagers the skills and the knowledge that speech and debate can offer. And finally, whenever you're competing, whether in speech and debate or if you decide not to in other areas of life, always remember that when you get discouraged about how you're doing, or when you get resentful of other people doing better than you, that's your choice. Don't be resentful of them. Instead, as the Bible says, rejoice with those who rejoice. If they're happy about it, you should be as well. Franklin Delano Roosevelt once said that competition has been shown to be useful up to a certain point and no further. But cooperation, which is the thing we must strive for, begins where competition leaves off. So always consider, no matter what you do, that competition is extremely useful. Iron sharpens iron. But the ultimate goal is cooperation and the fellowship that speech and debate and that being brothers and sisters in Christ brings. Let's pray. Dear God, thank you very much for allowing us all to be here at Mars Hill tonight. I pray that the speeches that are given tonight would help people understand things about themselves and about the world and about you that they didn't know before, and that it would help people understand what they want to do with the next part of their lives. And I pray that whenever we're in competition, whenever we're looking at other people and comparing ourselves to them, that you would allow us to compare ourselves with them, but then use that comparison to understand how much you've done for them and in them. Amen.
Thank you, Josh. My name is Ben Bussler. I am one of the parents here at Mars Hill Speech and Debate Club. And we'll go to the first slide, please. My family has been involved with speech and debate since 2002. This is our 5th year. I have 2 older daughters who are in college right now, and I'd say that speech and debate helped them through the application process, trying to get scholarships. And I have 2 high school students who are now involved in speech and debate. We've done this many years, and we don't want you to feel like this is overwhelming, this is too much detail. This is just to give you a taste. Think of this like a smorgasbord, just to give you a taste of what speech and debate is like. And you may have questions afterwards. Feel free to come up and ask questions. And don't feel like you have to know all of this stuff or memorize all of this stuff. We want to give you some examples of what speech and debate is like tonight. You're going to see several of our students give you examples of the different speeches they're doing tonight. One thing I will remind everyone, because we have a lot of speakers, and I talked to Julie, one of our parent leaders, is that she's right back there. If you see Julie doing this, giving you the big whirly sign, that means you want to wrap it up, because you want to make sure everyone has a chance. And I said whirly, not swirly. So she's giving you the big whirly sign. So if we go to the next slide, please. Okay, we are a homeschool Christian organization. We are for homeschool students. You must be a homeschooler, and we are a Christian organization. We are for our competitors from ages 12 to 18, even up if you're 19 after January 1st, you can compete. I forgot to put on this slide, we have a juniors program for the younger students all the way from 8 to 12 who want to learn about speech and debate and be able to have some fun and maybe come the same night when their siblings are also practicing speech and debate. Next slide. We are under a national organization. You heard Josh say the word STOA. STOA is kind of like the NFL. They're the big league. They're the ones that tell us all the rules and set up they put together our ballots, and they help us have a big website and provide resources. So they're like the big NFL league for homeschool speech and debate that we're a part of. There are a couple of other leagues, but we're a part of STOA, which tend to be a little bit more in the western coast of the United States. We have tournaments that students go to and compete. Think of it like going to a track meet. A student can go and do the go ahead and do the mile. They can do a 100-yard dash. They can throw the javelin. They can compete in a bunch of different events, or they can compete in one. So the tournament, you can actually compete in a whole lot of events or one, and a lot of them are going on at different times. These tournaments are hosted by clubs like us throughout the United States. Anyone who's a member of STOA can go and compete at that tournament. We host two here in Phoenix. Our club puts them on. One, and usually it's end of November, sometimes early December, and we put one on in March. We had one last month. And I believe we had, if you included juniors, over 140 students from 5 states come and compete. And it is, if you've never been to a tournament, it is phenomenal to see teenagers dressed up in business attire, talking professionally, thinking on their feet, and talking about God. It sends chills down my spine right now, and I've seen this for 5 years. It is phenomenal, and it gives you hope for the future. As I said, we are a part of Night Talk. If you want to learn more, this is the website. If you go to the next slide, this is actually a picture from our national organization, STOA, their website. They have a whole lot of information that you can learn more about, and it's STOA. What is STOA? People ask, like, what does that stand for something? STOA actually comes from the Greek, where the Apostle Paul stood in the Stoa and gave a defense of Christianity. It's not like an acronym, STOA. It's STOA. So if we go to the next part, our next slide, this local organization is Mars Hill, and we are a local club. We meet here in Scottsdale. We have families from all over the valley. In years past, we even had some families come from Tucson, as far up north as Payson, that come to do speech and debate. This is our website. We have lots of information there, and if you are interested in more information about that, I think it's on the program, but I'm not sure. Let's go to the next slide. What is our purpose? Why are we doing this? We are a parent-led club. This is not something where, like, you take the piano, you drop them off, you come back an hour later, and they're better piano players. We are a parent-led organization, so we want a parent here every week with us to help give feedback to our students. And that also helps you learn about what they're doing. It helps you learn how to help them be better. And you also develop a camaraderie. And it's not our purpose to build this, but they build very strong bonds. And the level of integrity and faith that you see among the parents and students is just incredibly encouraging. But our purpose is to equip home-educated students to become effective communicators of the truth, defenders of the Christian faith, and a transforming influence on the culture. And Josh touched on that a little bit. That is why we do what we do. That is why we as parents go to tournaments. That's why we go ahead and come and coach every week. That's why we give feedback. We want them to be able to change the world. Yes, competing is great. Getting the trophies are great. But my desire is that 5 years, 7 years down the line, when my daughters are at a coffee shop talking to a friend, it's like, well, why do Christians believe this? They're going to I had an apologetics card like that. Let me give you 3 points why Christians believe this. Maybe not that. Let's go to the next slide. We did not start 52,000 years ago. That is a typo, 52,000 years ago. Yeah, we've been around a long time. We started actually in 2009, so not 52,000 years ago. For you young earthers, we haven't even been around that long. So we have grown to over 34 families, 56 students, and we've got 15 juniors. Now, those numbers have changed. We've had some kids come and go during that time frame. We meet here in Scottsdale. We are meeting at this facility. Over the years, we've met at different churches, but generally we are in Scottsdale. It's Monday nights, and we meet we actually have a worldview class that starts before 5 o'clock. We have announcements, and then we have a speech training from 5:30 to 7:30 generally. And then we have debate for those students that like to do debate, and you'll hear more about that later. We do that from 7:30 to 9, and that's every Monday night. And this is our website where you can find more information. And again, don't need to know the details. If you have a question, come grab us, and we'll be able to give you more information. Let's go to the next slide. Is that the last slide? That's the last slide. So with that, I think I'm seeing the swirly. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to our very first speaker, which is going to be actually our MC for the evening. Please give a very warm welcome to our parent, Miss Julie Fritz.
Good evening. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. We're very excited to have you here. It's very exciting. I've been in your place of checking it out and wanting to see what everybody looks like. And I just want to briefly remind you that the speeches that you're going to be seeing, with one exception of the apologetic speech that will be this evening, are prepared speeches that have been memorized and practiced and reviewed and rewritten over the course of the whole year. So these are the end of the year speeches. None of our students start there. Even our highly competitive students don't start there. We do have nationally ranked in the top 10 competitors in our club, but I can tell you they didn't start that way. We also have students who are so nervous to speak that they feel sick, and they don't stay that way because we are a very welcoming and accepting club. Our students are known throughout the country to be encouraging of all students from different clubs and at all the tournaments that we attend. The kids that come here, we're very accepting of where they are and who they are, and we just try to help them grow and become better speakers. We don't expect you to know anything coming in the first time, and we don't expect parents to know anything. When you first come, our very first week, we do a kickoff, and we have a big party, so it's really low stress. And then the second week, we start our classes, and we break up into groups. And so if you are brand new, if you're visiting today, then you would be in our novice class if you're 12 to 18 years of age, and that would be with me right in here with your parents. So no one has to know anything. We're going to teach you everything from walking into a room, how to introduce yourself, how to shake hands, how to write speeches, what to say, what to do. We don't have any expectations of things that you need to know ahead of time. If you want more information, we also offer a camp in the summer, and I'm not going to go over it because there's a whole bunch of information on the back of your program tonight. So feel free to look at that. I teach that camp in the summer, so if you have any questions, just see me afterwards. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. I just want to touch briefly on what Mars Hill has meant to our family. One of my favorite parts of our weekly time together is the devotional, as you heard Josh give this evening. And sometimes that student-led devotional is the most powerful way the Lord speaks into my life for the whole week. And I'll find myself thinking about the verses that they've talked about or something that they've said, and I'll be pondering it and just thanking the Lord that it'll make a difference in my life. These students speak into our lives. And in return, it's such a blessing to see so many parents speaking into the lives of our kids. It's made such a big difference to have other parents say, "Wow, you're doing a great job. Good job. Oh, that's okay that you forgot everything but your first name. You said your first name really well, and you smiled." So it's a very encouraging, loving, caring group of people. We try not to be intimidating to parents either. We really want to walk along beside you and help you. And like Ben mentioned, it really is similar to like a travel sport. And so if you were going to play competitive basketball and you had never competed before, you would not expect to be able to just grab a ball and get out and start playing. And that's how competitive speech is too. And I think once in a while people come in with a little bit of a misunderstanding that, oh, I gave a speech before for my co-op or my class, so this will be fine. Well, competitive speech, just like any other sport, has its own rules and regulations. And so you have to kind of learn what those are and learn how to tailor your speeches to fit into those categories. And we do all of that with you and help you. But as Ben said, the most wonderful thing is to watch our kids grow into the Lord and to watch the kids become men and women of God. And as they leave us, we just feel a hole in our hearts as they graduate and move on because they've just made such a big impact in who we are as a group. Thank you.
So just talking about what apologetics is, just giving a little background and just explaining what an apologetic speech. Apologetics is a limited preparation speech. Usually have like 4 minutes to prepare a 6-minute speech. And through apologetics, I know I've learned a lot through apologetics. I know before I started, I really didn't have a passion to study the Bible. I didn't have the passion to actually study who God is, have the passion to go into deeper understanding of God's word. But once I actually started apologetics, once I started studying God's word, that's when I had the passion to go deeper into God's word, to understand what God was saying and God was talking through his word. But overall, we see that through apologetics, it helps us to defend our faith. And the word apologetics is, so what is apologetics is the question. So apologetics helps us to define and defend the Christian faith. No matter where we are at, walking along the street, someone asks us a question, through apologetics, we're able to answer that question effectively, but try with the best of our heart, truly through our heart, and try to answer that question. But through apologetics, I know it was one of the best things that I've done. I know Josh was saying that through apologetics, you have to speak effectively and communicate effectively to those around you. A famous apologist once said that you have to put a pebble in someone's shoe. If you're talking to someone, they're an unbeliever, you're trying to put that pebble in their shoe. Make them think about what you were just saying, what the question that was just asked, so that they are thinking about that topic, thinking about that conversation, so that they will go back, look that up, to examine that and study it for themselves, so that they have a deeper understanding of what God is saying and what God is speaking to them. So apologetics helps us to speak effectively and helps us to communicate effectively to those around us. So overall, apologetics helps us to learn and to grasp what God has given us, the Holy Word and the Holy Bible. So overall, it helps us to examine what God has done for us. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Leah Bustler, and I've actually been doing speech and debate for about 5 years now, and I'm about to give to you guys an apologetic speech, kind of what Daniel was just talking about, and he gave a wonderful job of telling you guys the heart of what apologetics is, but I'd like to give you just a few more logistics about it. So apologetics, like he said, is a limited preparation event, which means that you know the topics that you might pick when you walk into a tournament beforehand, but you don't know specifically what you're going to speak about. So during the entire year, you can prep as much as you want, but at the tournament, you don't know what specifically you're going to speak about. And I have cards right here in my hand, and you can prep anything you want on these cards. It can't be a written speech, but it can be an outline. You can have quotes or Bible verses to help you effectively answer that question. And for STOA, there are around 100 different questions that you could possibly pull, and there are 6 different categories. Some of them are about God or about the scriptures, and some of them are, like he said, about compare and contrasting Christianity and different faiths. And it's a 6-minute speech, and you have 4 minutes once you walk into the room to draw those topics and pick one that you've hopefully prepared for. Now, I'm not going to prepare right here, right now. I have actually prepared beforehand, and hopefully this will be around 6 minutes. I don't have a timer, so if I end up going long, I know Miss Julie will tell me. But without further ado, I'm just going to get started. And I'd like to point out that because there's this mic here, I'm not going to use the stage. Normally, as a speaker, I would walk around a little bit and have a little bit of movement, but I'm not going to do that so that you guys can actually hear me. So without further ado, I'm going to get started. The purpose of man is like the purpose of a pollywog, to wiggle around as long as he can without dying and to hang on to life until death takes him. Clarence Darrow, an American lawyer, once stated this, and I think he gets to the heart of the human condition. A lot of us ask ourselves, what is our purpose? Why am I alive? Why am I even here? And that is the question that I've been asked today. Why am I here? And it's a deep question, and rightfully so. I think each and every one of us at some point of our lives has asked that question. But ultimately today, what I would love for you to take away is that our purpose is unique from anything else on earth. There are many different ideas or philosophies on what our purpose actually is. Some people believe that we were made by happen chance, that we were made by mistake, that there really isn't a real purpose. But what I'd love for you to see is that we do have a purpose and that it's unique. It's not like the pollywog, we're not wiggling along, but in fact, there is something unique about Christians and unique about humanity in itself. Now, we're going to be looking at why this is the case, what our purpose is through three different things. First, we're going to be looking at where our purpose comes from. Secondly, we're going to be taking a peek at what it is. And finally, we'll be looking at why that even matters. Why does it matter that we have a purpose and that we live in it? So first, where does our purpose come from? Now, Richard Dawkins is an astounded atheist, and he wrote this book called The God Delusion. And in this book, he outlines basically saying that the universe is exactly how it should be if there was no purpose. He believes that everything lines up with this idea that if there was no purpose, everything is as it should be. But this man named C.S. Lewis, who actually once was a former atheist and believed in what Richard Dawkins was trying to say and converted to Christianity, says this in response to that statement. He says, quote, "If the whole universe has no meaning, then we should never have found out that it has no meaning. Just as there was no light in the universe and there were no creatures with eyes, we should never know that it was dark." You see, what C.S. Lewis is saying here is that if we didn't have a purpose, we shouldn't even have this concept or idea of purpose in the first place. You see, if humans didn't have a purpose, if humans weren't morally better than something else, if we were created by happen chance, then why do we get upset when people act like animals? If there's no morality, why are there laws? Why do we fight wars protecting humanity and human rights if there's no purpose in it all? You see, this idea that Richard Dawkins was presenting completely disregards this idea of purpose and how all of us are sitting here asking us this question of why am I here at some point in our lives? Each of us faces that question, and how we answer that question determines the rest of our life. But you see, there is a book that does give us the answer to that question. This book is comprised of 66 different books, and the first one is called Genesis. And in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, it states this, that so God created mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Now, this book is the Christian Bible, and it outlines that God didn't create humans because he was lonely, and he didn't create humans because he wanted some sort of ego feed. He didn't just create these little minions to come there and worship them. Actually, in Acts, another book in the Bible, it states that the God who made the world and everything in it is not served by human hands if he needed anything. You see, the Christian Bible tells us that we were created by God and that God gives us a purpose. But what is our purpose? Just as things we create now in humanity have a purpose, like a pen is used to write, so did God create us with a purpose as well. There's a man named Max Lucado, and he's an author and a preacher, and I think he gives us some great insight onto what this is. And he says that we exist to exhibit God and to display his glory. We serve as canvases for his brushstroke, paper for his pen, and soil for his seeds, glimpses of his image. What I believe Max Lucado is trying to tell us here is that our purpose, because we were created by God, is to glorify him and enjoy him. We weren't created, like I said before, for some ego feed. He wasn't created us because he needed us, but because he loved us, because he is love, he wanted us to take a part in who he is. The Bible teaches that he's so loving and merciful and wonderful and just. And because of that, he wanted us to have the opportunity to take part in that. But you see, if you look around the room, you see that all of us are different shapes, different sizes, different personalities. We have different strengths and different weaknesses. And I don't think that God was just being creative when he did that. I think that he had a unique purpose in creating you as who you are. But why does this even matter? Why should you care about the fact that this God created you with a purpose to glorify and enjoy him? Well, the Christian Bible doesn't just tell us that he created us and that our purpose is to glorify and enjoy. It also tells us that we have a choice. In the very first book of the Bible, with the first two characters, so to speak, Adam and Eve, it talks about how they were given this choice. They had this one rule and they had this choice to break it or not. Now, unfortunately, they did break that rule. And ever since then, as the story of the Bible goes on, it talks about how because they broke that rule, we're separated from Him. But it also gives us the choice to live in that purpose. Now, when something is created for a purpose, if it doesn't work in that purpose or if it's not used for that purpose, that thing is not happy. As I found in my own everyday life, if I am not living within my true purpose, I feel so empty. And that's why it matters, is because you've been given the choice to live in that purpose. You can choose to or not. So, why are we here? See, I believe the answer to that is we are created by a God who loves us and a God that wants us to love Him back. There's a man named Dave Earley, and he said that there's no reason to feel insignificant or that life is without meaning because you have been made on purpose and with a purpose. Thank you very much. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about another category of events called interpretive events. What I just gave to you is called a limited prep event. There are different styles of speeches, and personally, the interpretive events are my favorite. They're all 10 minutes long. There's a 10-minute maximum speaking time, so you can go below that. You could go 6 minutes, 5 minutes. Usually you want to stick around the 10-minute mark. And these types of speeches are a little bit more about acting and telling a story. There are several different speeches within this category. There's one called dramatic interpretation, where you pick a story that's a little bit dramatic, and one competitor walks into a room and they basically bring that story to life. They become the characters, they act it out, they kind of mime different blocking. There's another event called humorous, which is like dramatic. You just choose a funny story and you do the same thing. The third one is called open, and it doesn't really have a specific mood to it. Can be funny, can be sad, can be somewhere in between. And then finally, there's one called duo, which you're actually going to see today, which is two competitors who walk into the room and they share that story. Now, something that's unique to STOA is that actually you don't have any props, you don't have any costumes, it's just you in your suit, and you walk up there and you show the characters and tell the story through your face, through your hands, and through your body and physicality. I really love interpretive events, and I think that they're really neat and really exciting. So if you walk away from this thinking that most of the speeches are pretty boring, I can guarantee you that interpretive events are not boring. I think that speech and debate definitely has something for everyone. So if you're a theater kid, I'm talking to you, because I was a theater kid and I fell in love with this group of speech events. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Annika and Lucas Wiener, and they're going to perform to you their duo interpretation.
Come in. Sorry, I'm late. It's fine. Take a seat. Are we all here now? Very well, I guess we can begin.
Is this, like, gonna take long?
Miss Buffett, you signed up for this session. You're free to leave at any time.
Just asking. Like, lighten up, Doc.
Well, I'm glad we're all here. I found that this sort of group therapy can work wonders. Do we all agree? Okay, can we begin by introducing ourselves? Would you like to begin?
Group Therapy by Ken Bradbury. Adapted by Annika Wiener.
And Lucas Wiener.
Copyright 2014. My name's like Muffet.
Your first name?
Muffet? Just Muffet. Miss Muffet.
Very well. And you?
Jack Horner, Little Jack. My daddy was Big Jack.
Because
Because he was bigger.
very well. And you?
Mary.
That's all?
Last name's Little Lamb.
And your middle name would be?
Hadda.
Mary had a little lamb.
Are you laughing?
No, something in my throat.
And you?
Dumpty, just call me Mr. Dumpty.
Mr. Dumpty.
Don't say anymore or I'll cry.
I'm sorry. Okay, now that we all know each other, my name is Dr. Sigmund. It's my job to lead you through this morning's session.
Is it okay if I cry?
Crying is perfectly okay. We're here to support each other.
Is this the only seat available? I'd rather sit in a corner.
We don't seem to have any corner seats, Jack. We're in a sort of a semicircle.
I need my corner. Can I pretend I'm in a corner?
Certainly.
Weirdo.
Miss Muffet, there be no name calling.
Sorry. You started in Christmas pie and I'm out of here.
She's making me cry.
No, can you please calm down a moment? I want to lead you through a series of questions. They're easy, really. Just answer whatever comes to mind.
Bored.
Excuse me?
That's what came to mind. Boredom.
That wasn't a question, Miss Muffet.
Sorry.
Who else?
I was in a room once.
Yes?
It was terrifying.
You were terrified of a room?
It was round, perfectly round.
No corners, right?
You've seen it?
Nope, just guessing.
Something would happen, someone would say something. I'd want to find a corner, but nothing. The circles, this wall, they started to get dizzy. I started to fall.
Don't say fall.
It's like the walls are closing in on me. So I stuck out my thumb.
You did what?
My thumb. It's what I do when I get nervous. I stick out my thumb.
Does it like help?
Not in a round one.
What were you trying to do? Hitchhike your way out of the room?
Please, Miss Muffet, I'm asking the questions.
Then ask them. This nut job needs help.
I'm not a nut job. I'm a lost and lonely little boy, and all I want is a piece of Christmas pie in a corner. Then you can leave me alone, and I'll be happy.
How about another question?
What's a Christmas pie?
I'm asking the questions. Okay, let's all take a deep breath, shall we? Now, is there a childhood memory that still bothers you? Miss Muffet, you don't seem to have any trouble speaking. Why don't we start with you?
I don't want to talk about it.
It's a place to share our fears, Miss Muffet. Nothing leaves this room.
I can't leave!
Oh no!
I mean, no information will leave this room. Miss Muffet?
Well, there was like this spider. Yeah, he came in, sat down beside me. That must have been awful. You think sheep are bad? You should try making conversation with a spider.
And where were you?
Sitting on my tuffet.
I hate to ask.
Then don't.
Okay, how about you, Jack?
Isn't it obvious?
I suppose so, Dumpty.
I remember the day I was laid in that awful nest.
Laid in a nest?
Something wrong with that?
No. Go ahead.
She sat on me.
Who sat on you?
The hen, the big, fat hen. I could barely breathe. It was so traumatic. I think I'm gonna cry again.
Mary, how about you?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing. Oh, sure. Stay out of my business, okay?
Easy, ladies.
We sit here and spill our guts. Then Miss Sheep Girl says she's had a perfect life. I didn't say that.
Let me help you. The sheep outside, he follows you everywhere, right?
What of it?
Just asking, and this doesn't bother you?
Of course it bothers me, but I've gotten used to it. I wake up in the morning and there's the sheep. I brush my teeth and the sheep appears. I go to Walmart and the sheep just follows me in. It's just a thing, you know. We all have our burdens to bear. Mine just looks like a sheep. If they gave awards for weirdness.
Muffet! Go on, Mary.
That's I spend my life with a sheep. It doesn't bother me, really. I'm not kidding. It's just a sheep. A stupid, lousy sheep. A woolly little thing that won't leave me alone. A stupid little animal that follows me everywhere I go. To the park, on vacation, when I'm trying to sleep. Every stinking where I go, the irritating little baba stalks me, and I can't get away from it. I'm going nuts. I'm telling you, I'm going nuts. I can't even wear wool sweaters.
Easy, Mary. We're your friends. We all love you. No one's going to bother you. The sheep's in the parking lot. You're safe.
Bah!
Miss Muffet!
I couldn't help myself.
I want my corner.
I'm crying again.
Calm down. Everyone, just calm down. Oh, look, the time I've got an session, and this one is a mess. Look, I'm very sorry to cut things short, but can we meet here again next week? I'm really sorry. But there's another group coming in.
Fine with me. Hey, you got a problem out there, Doc.
Problem?
You got 3 little pigs in the waiting room with some big hairy dude threatening to blow their house down.
Maybe say you piss me
Not unless they wear fur. He's got one of the little porkers in his mouth. Think we should do something?
Oh my goodness.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Mackenzie Mock. I am a senior this year, and I'm just going to talk a little bit about what speech and debate has done for me as a whole, and a little bit of information for people coming in and the people who are still in speech and debate and are continuing next year. So just to start off with, I've been here for 3 years. I have done multiple different events. I've tried new events every single year. And I have had, obviously, the most success in my last year. So I can back up what Miss Julie said about we don't start at our best. We don't start qualifying for NITALK. I don't think I know very many people here who started in their first year qualified in all the events they wanted to. It's a learning process, and that's one thing that you get from being part of STOA and being part of Mars Hill, is you understand and learn what a learning curve some things in life are, and public speaking is certainly one of those. But one of the biggest things that I want you to know you get from Mars Hill and from speech and debate in general is it equips you for other things in life you may not realize that you need now. I am currently part-time in college, and I'm going to be graduating with an associate's degree, and I can tell you flat out that this has helped me with that substantially. I took a communications class at college, and I found it entertaining how much I learned from here, from the different people here, from the students and the parents, and how much I could apply that and how far ahead that put me, even compared to the people who were 5 years, even 10 years older than me. I'm able to communicate in a way that is clear and lets people understand what I'm really trying to say. I can communicate about my faith, about my opinions, and personally, my favorite topic, which has equipped me more than almost any of the others, which is extemporaneous. It is one of the limited prep events, and you learn about current events and get to figure out and understand what your opinion is, what your stance is, based on all the information that you can find. And it equips you in a way that very few things I find do. I can talk about what's happening over in the Middle East or in Asia or the economy in some obscure country that many people may not have even heard of. And this lets you do things I didn't even know were possible. It's equipped me for ministry. It's equipped me to communicate about my faith and to do things that I actually wouldn't be able to do without having the experience to stand up and communicate without having to prep for even hours ahead of time. Limited prep events, the platform events where you memorize and learn about a particular thing, each of those different things, no matter which events you choose, give you abilities that you will use later on even if you don't realize that now. And that's something that for students who are here, I'm sure you're starting to realize. And students who are coming in, you'll soon see, because even at the first few years, I noticed the difference. But especially this year, I have noticed how much it has done for me when adults tell me, hey, I actually can understand what you're trying to communicate, or why do you know about this current event? Or how would you like to speak at this place and explain something about your faith? These different opportunities wouldn't happen without speech and debate and without these abilities that I've been given through the people here. So one other piece of advice for people coming in and for people who are still here. Choose to talk about the things that matter to you. Talk about what you care about, whether it's your faith, whether it's politics or economics. Pick the things that mean the most to you, and don't be afraid to tell people about it. Because you're given a platform. You literally judges are stuck in a room with you for up to 10 minutes at a time for you to talk to them about something that matters to you. So don't just necessarily pick something you think will win. Pick something that you care about, that you think other people should learn about and should care about. Make a difference with the platform that you're given and that this gives you. Take the lessons you can learn here and apply them to other parts of your life. And that's all the advice I can give you.
Hi, my name is Sonia Hemmings, and in the absence of our juniors coaches who couldn't be here tonight, I've been asked to share a little bit with you about our juniors program. As Ben Bussler mentioned, our juniors are ages 8 to 12, and they typically meet every other week, and they learn about almost all of the same speeches that the older kids are learning about and preparing for in their time together each week. And they also practice some of the same skills to build their confidence, learning how to shake hands, how to walk into the room, how to smile, how to not be nervous, working on their volume, things like that. So it's excellent preparation for younger kids who are maybe looking ahead to moving into the novice group someday and being an older competitor. It's definitely been a blessing for my family. I have 2 older students in the regular club, and then I have 2 younger students in juniors, and it's just a huge blessing to have an activity that our whole family can participate in and invest our time in, so that's been wonderful. Our club is somewhat unique too in that we offer tournaments for juniors. There aren't a lot of clubs who do that, but our club, at least the past few years, has offered 2 juniors tournaments in conjunction with our regular tournaments. So this last March, just a month ago, we had 30 juniors competing from at least 4 different clubs, which was just so fun to watch them. They take it very seriously. They dress sometimes in suits too, and sometimes just in their Sunday best, and they have shorter speaking times. I think it's about half the length. Their events are about half the length of the older kids' events, but it's just a neat treat to watch them to grow. And I have a special privilege tonight to introduce a student who is moving from our juniors program into our novice group next year. She is going to share the persuasive speech that she won first place in at our tournament in March. So if you would all join me in welcoming Keela Salinas.
Frankie, a rescue terrier. Soon after he was found and rescued, the vet discovered a shoelace tied tightly around his neck. After they had cleaned and treated his cut, they found it wasn't his only wound. Poor Frankie had bites and abrasions on his stomach, back, and sides. It was difficult to determine what exactly happened to him, but it was sure he got rescued just in time. Without the shelter's medical treatment, his body would have been riddled with infection. Soon he got taken home to a normal family just like yours. Now this is just one of the many rescue stories out there that end happily. Rescue a dog by adopting from a local trusted shelter. You will save a life, save your family money, and your fart to fight the cruel act of puppy mills. Save a life. The American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, also known as the ASPCA, did some studies that showed that each year, approximately 2.7 million animals are put to sleep, euthanized. Now, these deaths happen when families choose to buy pets from stores instead of adopting, and shelters simply run out of room due to the constant flow of homeless dogs. Save a pup from a shelter and help this number decrease. Animal shelters and rescue groups are just brimming with happy, healthy pets, hopefully waiting for someone to take them home. For example, my family saved 2 little innocent lives when we adopted the siblings Bumper and Sophie. We adopted them from a no-kill shelter, which rescued them from being euthanized by Maricopa County Animal Care and Control. Save money. When you adopt a pet, the cost of spay or neuter, first vaccinations, first vet exam, and microchipping is usually included in the adoption price, which means you've scored a major fuzzy deal, which will shower you with kisses for years to come. Rescue dogs cost a lot less, but love just the same. PetGuide.com quotes that most pet stores offer little, if any, health guarantee on their puppies. If they do provide some sort of coverage, it is usually full of stipulations that you're a living being, more like a defective appliance, unquote. Vet bills from a sick dog will add up quickly. Think about it. A rescue dog will end up costing you much less in the long run. Bring down puppy mills. The Humane Society quotes puppy mills are factory-style breeding facilities that put profit above the welfare of dogs. Animals from puppy mills are housed in shockingly poor conditions, with improper medical care, and are often very sick and behaviorally troubled as a result. Now, the moms of these puppies are kept in cages to be bred over and over for years without human companionship and with little hope of ever joining a family. After they're no longer profitable, breeding dogs are simply discarded, put down, abandoned, or sold at auction, unquote. And we humans call canines our best friend. Is abusing little puppies and innocent dogs in puppy mills signs of even remote friendship? Maybe right now you're thinking that using puppy mills is an abuse, but breeding dogs in horrible, nasty atmospheres just for money, scaring animals for life and giving them special needs, and sometimes killing dogs when you can get no more money out of them is dog abuse. And to think that you could do your part to put these cruel companies out of business. You see, when you buy a pet from a store, you are increasing the risk that more animals will be bred in puppy mills. But you could choose not to support these companies and adopt an abandoned puppy mill dog instead. You can research online available rescue pets at petfinder.com and many other websites. When you find the perfect fit for you and your family, any age, any breed, you could drive right over to a local shelter and bring home a happy addition to your family. I hope you have or will adopt a canine because you'd save the lives of hopeless shelter dogs, save money, and your part to fight puppy mills. A famous animal advocate, Jim Willis, once said, quote, "I looked at all the caged animals in the shelter, the cast-offs of human society. I saw in their eyes love and hope, fear and dread, sadness and betrayal, and I was angry. God, I said, this is terrible. Why don't you do something?" God was silent for a moment, and then he spoke softly. "I have done something," he replied. "I created you," unquote. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Madeline Fritz, and I am going to be giving you an expository speech today. And that kind of speech is part of the platform categories of speech events. You've already heard about limited prep and interpretive, and this is the other category, and this is platform, which is basically what you think of when you think of a speech. It's a memorized 10-minute speech, and you memorize at home, you write it, and you can give it at tournaments throughout the year, and then you give your speech in competition. My speech that I'm going to be giving is an expository speech, which means that it is exposing a topic, and you'll find out what that is in a little bit. So, if everyone's ready, did you know that one of the most recognizable symbols of patriotism in the world was designed by a 17-year-old? In 1958, a high school junior named Robert Heft decided to use his mother's prized wedding gift for his history assignment. His objective, to sew a new American flag. The flag of the day had 48 stars. However, when Hawaii and Alaska joined the US, the American flag needed a facelift. Bob changed the flag from 48 to 50 stars. His teacher gave him a B-. In an interview with Morning Edition, Bob said his teacher told him, "Get it accepted into Washington, then come back and see me and I might consider changing your grade." 2 years later, he had written 21 letters to the White House and made 18 phone calls. His design was accepted by President Eisenhower, who invited him to the White House on July 4th, 1960, for inauguration of the new flag. Heft is now credited with designing the longest-running American flag, and his teacher changed his grade to an A. As students, we learned that the stripes stand for the 13 original colonies and the stars for the 50 states. However, it seems we easily forget the historical importance of the American flag. Our country is going through a time of unrest, and flag burning has become a frequent occurrence. The American flag is not just a piece of cloth. It has played a powerful role in our nation's history. Those events demonstrate what the American flag stands for: freedom, strength, and hope. Congress first authorized production of the American flag on June 14th, 1777, 2 years after the start of the Revolutionary War. We now celebrate June 14th as Flag Day. According to the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, President George Washington described the flag in this way: "We take the stars from heaven, the red from our mother country, separating it by white stripes, thus showing that we have separated from her. And the white stripes shall go down to posterity, representing liberty." As a general, George Washington knew the price of freedom. He lost 25,000 soldiers, but his army was still victorious. Over the 239 years the United States of America has been a country, American soldiers have paid the ultimate price to maintain freedom. During the War of 1812, the flag earned a new name, one given by the American Francis Scott Key, who worked as a lawyer but was also an aspiring poet. He had boarded a British ship to negotiate the release of his friend, who had been captured by British soldiers sometime earlier. Key's timing was either perfect or terrible, as the British had plans to attack Baltimore that very night. Helpless, Key waited 8 miles away as the British rained artillery at the Americans. This painting by Edward Morin depicts the moment as the sun rose in the sky above Baltimore, when they could still see the American flag flying victorious over Fort McHenry. Witnessing the battle inspired Key to write the words of a song on September 14th, 1814, a song that would one day become the national anthem of the United States. Originally entitled Defense at Fort McHenry, the name was later changed to The Star-Spangled Banner. The first sheet music copies of his poem were printed by Thomas Carr's Music Store in 1814. It has been sung at hundreds of military ceremonies, parades, and sporting events. My family had the opportunity to visit the original flag from Fort McHenry at the Smithsonian several years ago. We bought this ornament, which is an exact representation of that flag. The original banner is about 1/4 of the size of a basketball court, and each star is 2 feet in diameter. The American flag has played a powerful role in our nation's history. It not only represents Americans fighting for freedom, but also the strength and resilience they felt. In 1824, a sea captain named William Driver coined the phrase Old Glory to describe the American flag. His mother gave him a handmade 24-star flag. When it unfurled from the mast of his ship, he exclaimed, "Old Glory!" He retired in 1837, taking Old Glory home with him to Nashville, Tennessee. In 1860, he and his wife repaired it, adding 10 additional stars. When the Civil War started in 1861, Confederate soldiers attempted to take Old Glory. Why? Because the ideas behind the flag influenced people and gave them strength. In order to protect it, Driver sewed the flag inside a bed cover, where it remained hidden until Union troops freed Nashville in 1862. Old Glory was eventually donated to the Smithsonian, where it can still be seen by visitors today. There are many instances of the American flag inspiring strength in those who beheld it. During some of the bloodiest fighting of the War of the Pacific in World War II, 6 U.S. Marines raised a flag on Mount Suribachi in the Battle of Iwo Jima. This picture, taken by Joe Rosenthal, is often regarded as one of the most significant war images and possibly the most reproduced photograph of all time. Even after 5 weeks of heavy losses on both sides, American soldiers had the strength to keep going, and raising the flag on Iwo Jima was a symbol of their resilience. According to Tom Patterson on CNN, the image was so inspiring that, by 1945 standards, it went viral. Our nation saw that picture as an image of power during World War II. Our nation's banner has played a key role in some of our most influential moments. For 239 years, the American flag has been a beacon of hope for millions of people. Neil Armstrong was the first man to walk on the moon, an American citizen. He and Buzz Aldrin placed the first flag on the moon, an American flag. This event gave people hope for a better country and a more prosperous future during the Cold War. Fear was on the minds of millions when planes crashed into the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. Those terrorist attacks created such a blow to America that we still hear about them. 2,296 people were killed that day, and 6,000 more were injured. But in the midst of chaos and fear, firefighters hoisted an American flag above the rubble, successfully creating a statement: there is still hope. The flag represented that. Imagine what the American flag means for mothers whose sons and daughters die serving our country. They are given a flag at the funeral. How much hopelessness must they feel when they see other people burn it, or a college remove it from its campus? What does the American flag mean to you? My great-great-grandpa served in World War I. This 48-star flag was given to my family at his funeral by the Veterans Administration. To me, the American flag represents Americans under God, fighting for freedom, having the strength to be victorious, and hoping for a better world. It is their legacy that gives the American flag meaning. From school projects to world wars, remember the powerful role the American flag has played in our nation's history. Those events demonstrate what the American flag stands for. Freedom, strength, and hope. Do not let its significance fade. Fly the flag proudly from your home on Flag Day and remember those who fought to keep it safe. It is so much more than fabric we wave on the 4th of July. This symbol of patriotism has played a huge role in shaping our nation, and it represents all that Americans have stood for. Thank you.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. Nice job. My name is Michael Reeves, and I'm one of the debate coaches here at Mars Hill. We not only offer speech events as a club, but we also offer debate events for the students to enjoy. And I'd like to invite 4 debate students to come on up on stage with me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about debate, and Ben Bustler, who's also one of our debate coaches, is going to talk to you about debate. But before I get started, we're going to have a little decision time. I'm going to give them a debate topic. So one of the types of debate that we offer here is called parliamentary debate. It is a debate between 2 teams, or teams of 2. One will take the government side of an issue, so they'll be arguing on the affirmative side. And the second team will be arguing the opposition, or the negative side of the argument. And one of the unique things about parliamentary debate is they do not know the topic 20 minutes before they go in to debate it. And then they go in and have a 45-minute debate session on whatever topic it is. So I've chosen 2 fun topics for us for tonight, and these will be our competitors, and we'll give them an abbreviated time to prepare a debate, and they will have an abbreviated debate tonight, correct? Awesome. And so, Josh, do you have a coin? Yeah. So why don't you flip it? You decide who's going to call it. Okay. It is heads. So what do you want? What side do you want?
Let's do Gov.
All right. So you're going to be the Gov? Okay. So we have picked our sides, and now I'm going to read the topics, and by a show of hands, you are going to pick the topics for these folks to argue. So the first one for tonight, in our fun parliamentary debate topic, is cats are the best family pets. So that's option 1. Option 2, spring is the best season of the year. So option number 1, please raise your hands. Who wants them to debate about cats? All right. Option 2, who wants them to debate about oh my goodness. Okay, so you are debating spring is the best season of the year. So you guys have spring, you have something else. All right, so they're going to go off and prepare. And we give them one of the, what they're going to do, just to kind of describe what they're going to do now, is they have laptops. So one is going to pick to be the first speaker in parliamentary debate. That's called the Prime Minister. And they're going to basically start off the argumentation for their team. And then the opposition's going to get up and give a speech about, and they're going to kind of construct their arguments and respond a little bit to the government side of the issue. And then their teammates are going to get up one after another and continue the argumentation. And so it kind of develops. There are 6 speeches in that parliamentary debate, and it's fantastic to watch. They debate all sorts of different types of topics, not easy topics like I just gave them, but very significant issues of our day. It could be any topic. It could be black is the new white, or it could be should we end nuclear power, or something like that. It could be any topic, and literally they have 20 minutes to prepare. They go in and argue it out. So it's for our more advanced debaters, but we do offer that here as a club. We have several teams. They do very well when they go to tournaments, so we're very excited for them. So that is one option of debate that we offer here at Mars Hill. The second type of debate is one person against one person. So they're teams of one. We call that Lincoln Douglas value debating. And that is more of a prepared debate where we study a topic. And the topic for this year is resolve the needs of the public ought to be valued above private property rights. And so it's arguing public need versus the right of an individual to have private property. And so it's a very deep issue. They work on that issue all year. They debate competitors about that topic all year. They take both sides, so they have to both argue for public need and they have to argue for private property rights. So they learn all sorts of the nuances that go into those two topics. And it's fascinating to watch as they start to get into the topic. Their research skills, and this is some of the reasons why I think STOA offers debate as a form of speaking, is it just really ignites students' research skills. It ignites their ability to think logically through an issue. Critical thinking skills come into play. Also, the ability to speak ad hoc, because you don't know what your opponent is going to be arguing until you get into the round and you listen to their first speech. And then you have to think, oh, they've got some good points. How do I respond to that? And you actually have to think on your feet. So you're able to cross-examine your opponent in Lincoln Douglas value debating. And so it's a fantastic way to develop critical thinking skills, logic skills, to develop the ability to truly listen to an opponent's argument. As they get to be better debaters, this becomes very, very critical. Usually when you start out in debate, you kind of miss each other's arguments. So both sides are not exactly listening to the other, and as a judge, that's some of the comments that you make on your ballots as you watch them debate. So you learn to listen critically to other people's perspectives, which is a phenomenal skill to have in life. And also, one of the things that really encourages me is it teaches them the ability to look at an issue and to see both sides of an issue. There's always a couple of different sides. Even on topics that we think might be settled, for a lot of people, there's differences of opinion. And so it gives them the ability to, and it forces them to be able to take both sides and to research it and actually argue it effectively. So it's a phenomenal skill to learn as a young person. One of the reasons why my family and I are so heavily involved in speech and debate, I have 3 kids. My oldest daughter got us into speech and debate. She attended a tournament and came home and said, we need to do this. And so as a homeschool dad, I said, yep, no problem. I'll support you guys in whatever you want to do. And it wasn't until I actually saw at a tournament the first debate round that I ever watched. I knew nothing as a parent. I had never been to any club meetings. My wife took my daughter, and she kind of set me up and sent me to a tournament. And I watched these 2 young men debate a topic that I really didn't know anything about. And I was phenomenally impressed by that debate round. And so for you parents, you might think you're not qualified to participate in this activity. I want to say that is not true. You're uniquely qualified, and you'll find out how uniquely qualified you are as a parent. You bring a lot of just wisdom and energy and perspective that the students really, really crave your feedback. So Let's see, what else do I want to say? And also debate encourages persuasive speaking skills as well. Because at the end of the day, you have a debate about a topic, and you're doing that for the audience of one, which is sitting in the room with you, we call the judge. And if you cannot convince the judge, they vote for your opponent. And so it teaches you how to be very succinct, to kind of size the judge up, if you will. What perspective are they coming? How are they responding to my arguments? You're looking at their facial expressions. You're looking at, are they tracking with me or not? So you learn all of those different types of persuasive skills, and that's what the students really, I think, enjoy about debate here at Mars Hill. So without further ado, I'm going to have Ben Bessler come up and talk about our third form of debate, which is called team policy, and then I'll go get our competitors and you get to watch a little debate.
Thank you, Mike. I'm back. So I last year helped Mike with Lincoln Douglas debate, and this year I am coaching our team policy debate. And I'd like to josh him and the other coaches that I went over to the better side of debate. So we'd like to josh about that. Team policy is very, very similar to Lincoln Douglas. You have two sides, and you prepare a topic. One of the differences are that you actually have two people on a team, so two students on one side and two students on another side. And like Lincoln Douglas, they have a big theory or topic that they're working under. This year it was on food safety and agricultural policy. And during one round, they will have something where they want to change the system and say, we need to make a change, make something safer. Then the next round, they have to be negative. And as Mr. Reeves says, you learn to be able to see both sides of an issue, to be able to handle, be able to argue for something, then later argue against it and see the holes in your arguments. One of the other differences with team policy is, as the word says, it's policy, which means there's a little bit more emphasis on research. It's a little bit more about how to document your research. Now, it sounds like, oh my gosh, my eyes are starting to droop when you're talking about research and doing all of that. When you get into competition, they get excited. A couple years ago, we had a family, had two young men who are now in college, and they competed, and they liked it. And the second year, they also loved baseball. And the second year, our club night was in conflict with their baseball. And the parents thought, well, they're going to choose baseball, right? That's just no brain. They said, no, we want to do speech and debate. But their baseball coach was so shocked, he about fell over. And after he was so shocked, he changed his baseball practice schedule so that they would still come and do baseball. There's something about when you get in competition, there's something about working together as a team that really gets excited. And they had a problem, in homeschooling, all right, they love to play video games, they love to go out and play sports. They had to tell them, you could only do so much time of research. Now, this sounds crazy. These were not some oddball kids. They were really well-rounded homeschooling kids. And you find that it really just gets them very excited about the competition. And you think, well, they try to come up with ideas like, this is a winning argument. Oh, this is something, I got some great evidence that no one's going to know how to respond to. One of the things that we want in all of our forms of debate is we want them to learn about these techniques and skills and the intricacies, but at the end of the day, they've got to be able to persuade you. And that's a life skill, right? I'm not sure how many times you've been in business meetings where somebody says, hey, we're going to have a meeting and discuss something about in business at a conference call, and you'll be able to think on your feet. If you've got these skills to say, well, there's a hole in that argument, and there's a hole here, and this is a couple responses to that, it's a phenomenal life skill to be able to do that. At our tournaments, if you join speech and debate, we have to have someone judge. We have to have someone go ahead and say, you're the winner and you're the loser. And it sounds terrible, but that's competition. That's what drives us to do better. And they also rank them on speaker points. We can't do that as parents alone. We recruit family and friends from the neighborhood. And if you know students, or maybe in college or at public schools, or they do speech and debate, it's like they sound like they're speeding, like they're doing an auctioneer, blah, 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 blah. We don't do that here. We want to train our students to be able to talk to the thinking man and woman on the street, that they can talk to grandma and talk to her about food safety, and that she can understand, and she can go ahead and go make a decision and tell you why. We want them, it's the burden of our students to be able to convince you for a certain position. that is a phenomenal skill, and some other leagues don't do that. So team policy, as I said, it's a two-person event with another two-person event. It adds some excitement. You're working with a partner, so you're not up there alone. It also adds sometimes some challenges because if you are a partner with someone and you want to go to 2 tournaments and they want to go to 12 tournaments, you got a little bit of some issues there. Or how are you going to go ahead and divvy up your work? Is one person going to go ahead and write briefs? Is the other person going to go ahead and do research? So you learn to work together. Those are great skills to figure out how to work on someone very closely on when you have a deadline and to improve on something. So that was with team policy. And I hope that you'll investigate. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me afterwards. And I'm wondering, are we ready for our debaters, or are they still? Okay. And as Mike said, what you're going to see is an example of parliamentary debate, which is based on what you see in the House of Commons. It's very fun, usually a lot of sometimes jokes and humor, and it's a really fun thing to ever watch. Yeah. And at tournaments, wherever you go, we oftentimes at whatever club, they're hosting at a church, they're hosting at a school that they've rented. You will be debating in all sorts of locations. You may be debating with coffee tables. You may be debating on chairs. A couple years ago, there was a fire at the university. They had a fire in California that shut down the university. And so they ended up renting hotel rooms, and students were debating in hotel rooms. And so you end up having to debate everyone. Oh, and in this form of debate, and it's unique to parliamentary debate, like in the House of Commons, if you've ever seen it, it's lively, it's spontaneous. The audience is encouraged to participate. And how do they do that? They will do it. If you hear an argument you think is a good argument, oh, knock. And you can knock on the wood or knock on your seat. That tells you, like, I think that was a great argument. Sometimes people say something, jolly ho, good job, hear, hear. And that is a part of being in the House of Commons. Our other forms of debate, the audience is quiet. But in this form of debate, the audience is encouraged to participate and give feedback like that. We always want to remind you, never negative feedback to give some, but just positive feedback of hear, hear, jolly good, knocking, those things like that. Are we?
Yep, just move your microphone.
Okay. We're going to bring our debaters back in. And again, they've only had 20 minutes to go ahead and prepare their arguments. Less than 10 in this case. So they're really learning to think on their feet. Can you hear me? All right, yeah. In our league, the families get to vote on the resolution. And when you're a member of STOA, you'll get an email sometime in May and saying they've come up with 3 different resolutions that they think for team policy and 3 different resolutions for Lincoln Douglas. And you get a chance, then every family gets 1 vote. And you'll see some lively discussions on internet boards about which ones they think are better or why. Some people they liked the idea of agriculture policy. I know my youngest daughter, they liked it because it's something you can kind of get your mind around. Sometimes if people feel strongly about, I don't want to talk about military policy. We talked about that 2 years ago. So you get some lively discussion, but the families get to actually vote on the resolution. It is revealed, we have our what's called NITOC. It's our National Invitational Tournament of Champions, and that is our national tournament at the end of the year. This year it is from May to the last week of May, early first week of June. It's going to be in Tennessee. Every year it's someplace different. And students who have done well in an event, typically you have to be the top 40% of performers, get what they call a check mark. And if you get 2 check marks in an event, you are invited to compete at NITOC in that event. And so students that's why they're, again, part of the competition, trying to improve and to get that check mark. And when you go to a tournament and they're announcing the students, they'll often have a little line showing you the students that were just made the 40% and those that were below it. So they often want to they're working hard to get that check mark. Are competitors ready? All right.
Oh, we get to sit down and do. Oh no.
Because we're full point of information and no protected time. Do you think? Yeah, no protected time.
15 seconds protected time. 15 seconds protected time, 4-minute speeches.
Do you guys know what protected time means? No? It means that I can't come up and ask questions until 15 seconds has passed, just so everyone knows.
And
All right, so before we get the actual round started, I'm going to introduce, or we're each going to introduce each one of ourselves, and we're going to say what positions we are in today's debate round or what role we will be playing. So my name is Kellen Hemmings, and I'm going to be the prime minister for the government team, or kind of the person who's in charge of the government team.
I'm Isabel Clausen. I'm the member of the government team, and we're on the side that's saying that spring is the best. So I'll be the last speaker saying why spring is the best.
My name is Joshua Reeves, and I'll be the leader of the opposition, so I'll be the first person to come up here and tell you that they're wrong.
And I'm Samuel Lomax. I'll be your member of opposition, so I'll be the second person to come up and tell you why they're wrong.
And then for one more point of clarification, I don't know if my dad already told you this, but the order in which we're going to speak is the Prime Minister will speak first, then I'll come up and respond to him, then Isabel is going to come up and respond to what I said, and then Samuel will be the last person to come up.
All right then, so if everyone is ready. Carly knocks already, I love it.
Oh, and if you like something, please knock.
Please, please. All right.
Tradition.
Yes, tradition. Without further ado then, let's get started. So the resolution we have been given today to present to you is in fact spring the best season of the year? And as the government team throughout my speech, but also throughout today's debate round, I hope that you can in fact agree with us that spring is in fact the best season of the year. And before we get into the reasons why spring is the best season of the year, we have a couple of resolutional analysis points that kind of further just kind of explain what the resolution is, what things are, and why a government-decided vote is warranted. So my first resolutional analysis point you can tag as a fact resolution. Again, this is a fact resolution. Now, the reason why this is a fact resolution is because we are trying to prove either if spring is the best season of the year or if the other seasons are the best seasons of the year. Now, this leads me to my second resolutional analysis point, which is that of the definition of spring. Now, the definition of spring, as given by Merriam-Webster's dictionary, is the season after winter and before summer in which vegetation begins to appear, and in the northern hemisphere is from March to May, but in the southern hemisphere occurs from September to November. Now, I have only one contention to provide why, in fact, spring is the best season, but a couple applications and a couple of pieces of evidence showing that why, in fact, spring is the best season, and without spring, and if we don't value spring higher than the other seasons, we can't really have a world in which we will enjoy. Now, my first contention you can tag is spring is foundational. Again, spring is foundational. Now, I have one subpoint underneath this, which you can tag as subpoint A, in which it promotes health. Again, it promotes health. In fact, the Environmental Protection Agency says that climate impacts on agriculture and food supply are nothing but beneficial in only the springtime. Essentially, only in spring does the agriculture benefit the most and not harm itself, whereas in the other seasons it is prone to do so. But before I get into my other points, I'll get to your question.
All right, so I'm just going to use this mic
Yeah, you're
because that's far away. So you say that it promotes health, but don't a lot of people get spring allergies?
Yes, in fact, a lot of people do get spring allergies. However, it is not the government's team to say that there are no backfires or there are no harms with saying that spring is in fact the best season, but allergies are a small cost to pay when we see how much it benefits and how much springtime benefits the agriculture industry, but also how it benefits the people as a whole and is able for people to actually eat and be able to survive. Now, my second subpoint is that subpoint B, it promotes the economy. Again, it promotes the economy. And in fact, 1 billion people in today's world, which provide for over 100 million jobs that exist only in the springtime and exist only so that they have jobs within the agriculture industry, but also in other agencies that are only open and can only operate during the springtime, the season in which they can start to plant their crops, the season in which they can start to make plans for the new year. But my subpoint C, which is in fact probably one of the most important of all, is that it is a great awakening. Again, it is a great awakening. And in fact, in springtime, we're kind of getting out of the haze of winter. It's kind of dull in winter, some clouds, it's cold outside. We don't really feel like doing much because of that. But in springtime, that's when things tend to change. In fact, the Journal of Psychology says that people are most productive, but also people give the most energy and the most time and dedication to the time of the year in which spring falls on. Now, it is for all these reasons that I hope at the end of today's debate round you can see that spring is in fact the best season of the year. Thank you.
Okay, that actually might be better. Yeah. All right. Why are trees very forgiving? Because in the fall they let it go, and in the spring they turn over a new leaf. Now that I've made a joke about something related to the subject we're discussing, let's go into the actual arguments of this round. Now, I'll be presenting two contentions for why the resolution is wrong, why spring isn't the best season of the year. Now, the first of these contentions is subjectivity. Subjectivity. You see, the government team says that this resolution is a fact. It's a fact that spring is the best season of the year, but the problem is, best is subjective. Now, Merriam-Webster defines best as the most excellent, effective, or desirable type or quality. Now, effective or desirable is a very subjective measure. What's desirable to one person is not desirable to another. It also defines it as enjoyable. Again, enjoyable is different between two different people. One person enjoys one thing, another person enjoys another thing. I'll take your first question that you have.
If it's so subjective, why do thousands of different scientists run scientific studies of how it's good for health and economy?
Well, I'm going to be going into that in a moment. But the thing is, best is a subjective measure. So keep that in mind as we go through this. Now, so this first subpoint under this, I'll take your second and your last question that you have for this speech.
Yeah, so just real quick, if best is so subjective, then why are we trying to measure it on whether it is in fact best or not, if it is in fact a not worthy measurement in order to weigh this debate round to see
That's exactly the problem. That best cannot be used to prove a fact true. And because the resolution has best in it, it can't be proven true because best is a subjective measure. One person may value the health benefits of spring, while another person may value all the other benefits that other seasons have to offer. What's desirable to one person is not desirable to another. Now, the second contention is fall. Now, fall is actually the best season of the year. Now, you might be saying, wait a minute, the government team just said spring is the best, and they cited a bunch of scientists saying it's so. Well, scientists can have their own opinions, but let's look to what the majority of people say about the seasons. Now, a BuzzFeed poll conducted on almost 40,000 people found that 57% of them said fall was the best season, receiving over 28,000 votes. Spring was last place with just over 6,000 votes. Spring is not the best season. Fall definitely is. Go with the majority opinion on this one. With that said, let's go to the case that the government team provided. Now, their first and only contention was talking about how spring is foundational and it promotes health in the economy. I'd like to talk about the economy for a moment. Now, their whole reason why it benefits the economy is because agriculture. We plant things in the spring. But my response, you can write down as if you're writing down what we're saying in this debate, is harvesting versus planting. You see, spring does provide a lot of jobs when you're planting crops. You need some people to put the seeds in the ground. But planting is mostly automated on farms nowadays. And I know this because I'm in team policy debate and we're discussing agriculture this year. So I'm going to know more than the LD debaters over here who aren't discussing agriculture. So the thing is, in the fall, you harvest the crops, and harvesting is still done by hand in a lot of areas and countries. So fall will actually provide more jobs for people. And so by the government team's own measure of what is best, fall is definitely the best season. Thank you.
I'll take this out. All right, if everyone's ready. Robin Williams once stated, "Spring is the nature's way of saying, let's party." It's because that the government team agrees with Robin Williams and believes that spring is still the best season of the year and that we should party because of it, that I'm going to show you today why this is true. Let's first look at my opponent's case, your first of two questions.
Yes, would you agree that partying leads to negative benefits for the United States?
I would actually not always agree with that. Depends on the circumstances, but we're showing you why you should party because spring is so great. And we're in spring right now, and I love spring. With that being said, let's look down at my opponent's case first. Their main first contention was that this whole idea of the word best being subjective. My first response is, if it's so subjective, why does science prove this? We brought up many studies. The EPA, the Journal of Psychology, how spring is good for your health, it's good for the economy, and it's good for people and the environment as well. If it's so subjective, why do thousands of scientists write thousands of studies of why it's so good? But my second response is that we're showing you why you should choose it. We're persuading you to realize that you should be subjective about it because spring is the best. Your last question.
Okay, so scientists say spring is good, but do they specifically say spring is better than every other season, and are they qualified to make that decision for everyone when best is a subjective measure?
The articles we read actually says that spring is the best because it promotes the economy. It helps agriculture. You already used up your question.
May I have a follow-up question on the same idea?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so they say it's good in these areas, but best is a overall measure. So have you shown us that overall in all of the different areas that humans live in, spring is the best in all of these areas?
Yes, I believe we have through the economy, through health, and through the environment. That's what the world overall thrives on. But let's look down at your contention to how fall is the best season. Now, they quoted BuzzFeed and stated that only about 6% of people think that spring is the best and 57% like fall. However, my first response, I'm quoting Donald Trump, President Donald Trump, BuzzFeed is fake news. Although that may be credible or not, we need to fact check that. BuzzFeed isn't the most exact source, and they didn't really share much scientific evidence behind it. It's just a poll. However, we've shown you through credible sources that aren't fake, that is actually true, and that spring is better. But let's look down at their main overall response to our case. They looked at the economy instead of that. They talked about harvesting versus planting. My first response to this is you need to plant before you harvest. And my second response is that plants need to grow before you harvest them. This proves our point that spring is foundational. It's foundational to fall. We have fall to harvest. We have fall because the seasons change. However, if we really are going to harvest this food, we need them to grow first, and we need to plant them first, which all happens within the spring. Now, they didn't overall respond to our main aspect of how it promotes health. We talked about the EPA and how it reported that agriculture benefits the most within spring. We also discussed the idea of the Great Awakening, which is overall the biggest argument in today's debate round, how people are most productive in springtime. It's after Christmas time. Oftentimes during Christmas time, we spend a lot of money and we're kind of in the lower part, but then by spring we've saved up and we're being more productive. It's nice and sunny outside. We're not sitting alone in our homes, although in Arizona it's not that cold. But still, it's wintertime. Who likes winter that much? We have to realize that spring is foundational to the rest of the year. Overall, spring starts at the beginning. And it's because I agree that we should party because of spring, just like Robin Williams stated, that you should vote for the government, vote for real, non-fake scientific evidence, and vote for the health and economy of our world. Thank you very much.
Not used to using a microphone. I know. All right, if everyone's set to go. All right. When do people start using trampolines? Well, isn't it apparent? Springtime. Now that we've gotten that little pun out of the way, I'm going to go directly into responses and several more reasons why you should prefer the springtime, why you should prefer the fall time over that of the springtime. So let's first look at some of their main arguments. The first was they're talking about how science proves this, and I'll be getting to that later throughout my own contentions. But next, in response to BuzzFeed, they said that BuzzFeed is fake, but my one response to this is simple. We simply quoted the poll, not the actual news source, and the poll is still legitimate. Moving on to their second argument, yes, your first of two questions.
Was that poll based off of scientific reasonings or people just expressing their own opinions?
People expressing their own opinion of what they thought. We're basing it on society's views. Moving on to the second argument, they said you have to plant before you harvest in response to our second contention. I have one response to this, and that is fall is foundational. And the reason why fall is foundational is you see a seed must die before it can live again. And this is the truth of everything in life. This is what Jesus said in the Bible, and this is what we know to be true of science. Something must die to self before it can live again. Thus, fall is foundational and should be upheld as the best season. Yes, your last question.
You would agree with me, though, that they have to be a seed first in order for it to die and essentially resurrect and come back and be better, correct?
Necessarily, yes.
Necessarily or scientifically proven?
There are some plants which do not produce seed, which simply die and resurrect themselves. Now, moving into, just like Jesus resurrected Lazarus. Come on, guys. Now, moving on to several reasons why you should prefer fall. Isabel, a big contention of hers was partying, and I agree, partying is an amazing part of spring, but it's also a major downside. According to Forbes, they talked about this, and they said that drunkenness is a major problem in spring. Drunkenness is actually 78% higher in spring, according to CNN, leading to 300 additional deaths every year in spring over other seasons. This is why partying and Robin Williams is bad. Now moving into the second reason you should prefer the fall is that of allergies. According to CNN, there's an 83% rise in Americans that suffer from allergies, including me. I can tell you I've been suffering over the past few weeks. And that leads to an additional 4,000 doctor's visits every year, costing the American economy nearly $2 billion. This refutes their economy point single-handedly. My third reason you should prefer fall is that of mosquitoes. I hate them, you hate them, we all hate them, as Donald Trump said. Now, moving into the next point, you may tag it as ice. According to CNN, again in the same article, melting snow creates ice on the roads, leading to an additional 23 deaths per state every single year. This is a tragic accident that happens in spring, and you won't see happen in fall. Now, moving into my fourth reason, it's that of taxes. Need I say more? We all hate taxes, and it's in springtime. Finally, I want to get to the Brookings Institute, which said, quote, "The time of spring is the time of the slowest growth in the American economy due to what's known as the Christmas downturn. The Christmas downturn is when y'all decide you didn't like your presents so much that your parents gave you and you return them all. And that's what happens in spring to the American economy, and that's why it's so slow." And the final reason, or my fifth reason, is from Science Today, and it said that it's the lowest productivity time for society and the highest time for parties. The biggest revenue generated during the springtime is from those seeking to party it up. Ultimately, it leads to society being distracted, and they see how everyone just wants to spring for that next bottle of beer and wants to party it up like Robin Williams and Isabel. So for all these reasons, we highly encourage that you prefer fall. Thank you.
Well, that just gives you a little sample about what we do here in debate. It actually is a lot of fun for the students that are participating in it. And as you can see, they have to think on their feet. They have to think logically, think critically. I love the BuzzFeed. That was pretty cool. Anyway, that is just a small taste of what parliamentary debate is. And actually that round, a real parliamentary debate round lasts about 45 minutes, and they'll have 4 constructive speeches. So what you saw here is kind of their constructing their arguments. And then there'll be 2 rebuttal speeches afterwards where they really get into the meat of their opponent's arguments. And then they finally wrap up with talking directly to the judge and what we call voting issues. And they explain to the judge very succinctly why their side warrants their ballot. And it's really, really, really great to see them develop those types of skills where they listen to their opponent, they analyze their own speech and they're constructive, and then boil it right down and very succinctly tell a judge, this is why you should vote for me. So just important life skills that they develop in debate here. So, and then the final, who is up next? Isabel, come back up.
Holding it's more conversational. All right, I am Isabel Clausen. I just debated, as you all saw, and I am a senior in high school. This is my 3rd year in speech and my 1st year of debate. And a lot of times, parents tell me, okay, I hated high school. I wish that I could either redo it or I would never want to revisit those days again. But for me, when I look back on my high school career, I never want to redo it. And I think I would love to revisit it every second I could, because speech and debate was the biggest part of it. Now, I joined speech and debate when I was in 10th grade, and I wish I started sooner. You could start in 7th grade, and if you are a 7th grader, please start as soon as you can, because it'll be the best thing ever for you. But even if you're a sophomore or a junior or even a senior, please do it. Now, the main reason why speech and debate is very beneficial to me as a senior and why it really has prepared me for the rest of the world plays a big part in the academics and the common sense and critical thinking into it. I was talking to some of my friends today, they're a little bit younger, and they said, isn't speech and debate just all about homework? But let me tell you, did this debate we just did that look like homework to you? No, it was a lot of fun. And looking at the academic part of speech and debate, it is a lot of work, and you do research a lot, but it's fun at the same time, because if you write or debate about something you're passionate about, it doesn't feel like homework at all. And you learn great skills, how to think on your feet, how to think critically. And while all that is very important to me and why that has prepared me for the future, the biggest aspect that speech and debate has prepared me for is to teach me that I should always have God as the center of my life, specifically through my friend groups. Now, every single one of you here are all my best friends, and I'm really sad to leave you guys, but speech and debate has truly taught me that I should strive to have friends that circle around Jesus. And I've been in part of some friend groups that don't have God as their main center. And let me tell you, it has such a different vibe than the Christian circle I have here. When I'm with my friends, whether it's at a tournament and I'm stressing out and I'm about to go give a big debate round in front of this really scary tall guy, they come over to me and they pray, and I feel so much better. And if I'm having a great time at a tournament, they pray too. But even when I come here on Monday nights at club, I know that God is here with us, and that our goal to spend this time, spend 4 hours every Monday night and 6 hours every week, is for the glory of God, to create communication skills, to spread his love and his light to the world. We're all called here with the purpose of spreading God's light and his love. And we all do it in a different way with different talents. And you know what? Speech and debate helps us hone in on what those talents are. It helps us figure out what weaknesses we need to address so that we can live out our purpose. And for me, I found my purpose in speech and debate. before sophomore year, I went through some things and I finally gave my life to God summer of sophomore year and said, okay, God, you're taking the wheel. I'm gonna depend on you. And then I joined speech and debate that fall. And after my first tournament, my first speech, it was supposed to be 8 minutes. I gave it in 6 minutes and 30 seconds. I said it really quickly. It was about happiness or something. I don't even remember. But even the round wasn't that good. I came out of that round feeling, oh my gosh, I found my purpose. This is what I want to do with my life. And that's why I love speech and debate so much. So I'm really sad to leave, but it has prepared me to realize that I always want to have God as the main goal. And if you're going to join speech and debate for any reason, do it because you will fall even more deeper in love with God, with friends here to guide you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming. We'd like to take this time now to invite our student leaders and some of our coaches up front. So if you have questions, please feel free to come forward and talk to them. You can ask any questions that you have. And then we'd like to invite our other guests to head out for the ice cream dessert. And then our club will be joining politely afterwards. Thanks again for coming.